Well, as expected, it was a very hectic week here at Vogan Weather HQ as we were focusing a lot on Hurricane Helene that made landfall the early hours of this morning in northwestern Florida as a Category 4 130 mile per hour hurricane, and it has caused, as expected, unfortunately, massive damage with regards to storm surge, wind, and flooding. That system is now moving well up in to the southeastern United States, causing record-breaking flooding in parts of the Appalachian Mountains, for example, in North and South Carolina. And the system is going to, over the next 24 hours or so, hook up with a cut-off area of low pressure over the mid-south. It's essentially going to do a Fujiwara, and by that, it kind of hooks up with one another and they kind of dance and spin around each other. So that is going to be taking place over the next 24 hours or so, and it could cause further significant rainfall as well as wind damage. But the system, as it moved over the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico, was gradually strengthening all the while. It was slow to do so across the Western Caribbean as it passed the Yucatan Channel between Cuba and the Yucatan of Mexico. But once it managed to shake off some dry air, became a little better organized within the inner core, it really did start to become a very, very major system indeed. And it has, like I say, it made landfall during the early hours of this morning. You can see here in the end of this loop, the eye eventually kind of just started to clear out. It took some time to do so, but unfortunately it did in the end before making landfall. A lot of lightning around the surrounding eye wall itself, always an indicator that the system is strengthening. And I just wanted to look through a few tweets here by our friend Jesse Farrell, based at the AccuWeather State College in Pennsylvania, showing a couple of interesting facts with regards to Helene. Lots of lightning in that eye wall, scary stuff, he says, and that is usually an indicator that this system means business. We've also seen, obviously, the landfall. It was a 938 millibar hurricane, according to NHC, at landfall just to the east of Apalachicola, as a 130 mile per hour, 140 mile per hour, Category 4 system. According to Phil Klotzbach, pressure dropped to 941, but actually it was 938 at landfall as it approaches the Big Bend. 941 was the landfall pressure in Ian in 2022. Lower pressure equals stronger system. So continuing to look through here at some interesting facts, some record-breaking storm surges was found. Upwards of 6 to 8 feet of storm surge ravaged areas, particularly the Cedar Key area. Tampa Bay had some major surge as well. I think these are records, actually. I could be wrong. It looks as if storm surge, current storm surge, according to this tweet by Jesse. But we did see record-breaking storm surges. Cedar Key was essentially ravaged and pretty much wiped out by the landfall of Helene, unfortunately. Huge record storm surge so far by Helene. Cedar Key, upwards of 8.6 feet of surge, and that's above the high tide level as well. So all the ingredients coming together. The size of the system was very impressive as well. It was a huge wind field, and what can sometimes be an inhibiting factor to intensifying systems is you typically would want to see them compact and small. Then they can kind of generate and focus their energy more at the core. But because tropical storm force winds were in excess of 240, 250 miles away from the center, a lot of the energy is actually spread out through the system. But the fact is that the pressure continued to drop within the center. We had a very, very active eye wall of lightning activity, exceptionally cold cloud tops. The convection was continuing to spin around that eye. Eventually, the eye did clear out, and then we're seeing the expansion of that thick convective core. But the fact is, the system was covering almost the entire eastern Gulf of Mexico. In fact, the top of the system, due to the presence of that area of low pressure over the southern United States. That was kind of venting the top of the system and driving a lot of its moisture and cloud northwards. It was actually covering the entire length of the eastern United States as well. So this was a pretty impressive system, really, when you think about it from a meteorological standpoint. The fact that this system was able to strengthen at such a size, and this is obviously the devastating impacts that are being seen all the way up in North Carolina. Look at that flooding, incredible here. A tweet by Tyler B. Royce of AccuWeather, as I believe he's still at AccuWeather. Pretty incredible stuff. Look at the moisture shield getting drawn up. Look at all these areas that are affected. The system actually held the eye well up into South Georgia as well, by the way, which was pretty impressive. And look at the power outages, unfortunately, due to Helene causing massive power outages across northern Florida, south and southeast Georgia, through much of South Carolina. If you notice here, even into western North Carolina, Tennessee's getting it as well. So this is going to, well, we know it's an historic system, but we're going to see more facts, more images coming out. This is some footage here by Aaron Rigsby in Steinhatchee and also in Cedar Key. I was going to say Key West, but this is what storm surge does. You think of just the water level rising to 8 feet. I'm 5 foot, whatever, and then you put another 4 feet on top of that. Incredible stuff. And then, unfortunately, these properties just don't have a chance. So that is one example of the impacts that Helene had at landfall point. So areas just to the east of the centre. This is a tweet here by Billy Bowling, and this was capturing downtown Asheville all the way up in North Carolina. So this is the winds from Helene all the way up hundreds of miles away from the Gulf of Mexico at landfall point. And look at the damage to some of these trees seen in this video footage. So there is no actual tropical outlook today, but I will have an in-depth one tomorrow. This is another one, by the way. This is Tampa General Hospital showing the flood defences they've put up, designed to withstand 15-foot storm surge. And look at that there. Pretty scary stuff. Have you ever experienced a hurricane? Have you ever been in one? Let me know in the comment section below. I would be very curious to know if you've ever experienced one. I have to be honest and say I would love to experience one. I know the damage and the devastation that they do cause, but nonetheless, I would love to experience a hurricane at some point in my lifetime. Record-breaking rainfall up in Asheville, North Carolina here. In the space of 3 days, we've seen over 13 inches of rain falling, causing the devastating flooding in the mountains of North and South Carolina. And then as daylight broke, this was the scene captured. This is from the AccuWeather. 9 deaths reported in 4 states as of Friday morning. And has knocked out power to over 4 million customers, the most concurrent US power outages since the Arctic outbreak that hit Texas back in 2021. Cedar Key experienced a record-breaking 10.34 feet of storm surge. Strongest wind gust during Helene was 107 miles per hour at West Tampa Buoy, or Boy if you're from the UK. So yeah, very, very sad scenes coming out of the southeast United States here. So we'll look at the UK in just a second here. I just wanted to show you a couple of other interesting facts. Idalia, Debbie, now Helene 3, Big Bend, which is the region in northwest Florida, landfalls in less than 13 months. 3 of the last 5 hurricanes to landfall in the US was in the Big Bend, all within 25 miles of each other, which is pretty amazing, actually. So August 30th last year, we've seen Adalia move ashore as a Cat 3 system. Then on August 5th, 2024, Debbie, so obviously back several weeks ago, made landfall near Steinhatchee with 80 mile per hour sustained winds. And then Helene, 140, Cat 4, west-southwest of Perry, about 10 miles to the southwest-southwest of that region. Obviously, the 26th of September. So it was actually late last night, US time, early hours of this morning, UK time. So let me just see here. So unfortunately, this is from Tomerberg. Unfortunately, we have had yet another addition to the extensive list of major hurricanes making landfall in the US Gulf of Mexico since 2017, with all but 2 of them being a Cat 4 or above. So you can see this list. Harvey back in 2017, 130 miles per hour moved ashore in Texas. We had Laura 2020, 150 mile per hour in western Louisiana. Ida, 150 miles per hour in 2021. Zeta, 2020, 115. Michael, 2018, 160 miles per hour. Helene, obviously just gone, 140. Adalia, 115 in 2023. Ian, 2022, was seen coming ashore as a major Cat 4, 150 mile per hour system. And then Irma, 130 in Key West and the lower keys of Florida in 2017. So certainly that list has some very, very big systems indeed. I wanted to show you this here. This is Boone in upstate North Carolina. The flooding, incredible scenes here. And this is going to be images that we are going to unfortunately get used to seeing due to Helene's passage. I believe there's been exceptional rainfall in the Atlanta area, lots of damage caused as well, and we'll look at that in greater detail coming up. But anyway, let's get back to the UK. We've got cold air driving south. We had yet more heavy rainfall moving through the southern half of the UK here. You can see a system centered over northern France that is spinning away. It's actually the moisture that was getting lifted up from there. You can see the curl over northern France here. But the heavy rainfall that moved through with a frontal system, so the interaction between a front coming south, that area of low pressure, combined to create yet more flooding rainfall in parts of the UK. In fact, let's actually have a quick look at my notifications. I had a couple of tweets sent in to me of the flooding. This was the scene, the bridge into Bradley Stoke Nature Reserve underwater this morning. This is a tweet here by Matt Morris showing the flooding, renewed flooding at that in this region. I don't actually know exactly whereabouts in England that is, but this is Chipping Campden, seeing again fresh flood situation unfolding here across the south of England. It has been upwards of 3 times the normal September rainfall falling. This is Joanna here tweeting to say, quite possibly the worst journey back from Worcester I've ever had to drive through. Called the police to report major flooding the A449 around Kinver towards the Manor House at Whittingham or Whittington. So this was the scenes in parts of, I believe, the South Midlands, extending in the south central areas of England over the last 24 hours or so. And this is the rainfall totals for the last 24 hours. Again, the south captures a lot of the wet weather. The north staying largely dry, as you can see here. Looking at the past 48 hours, you can see here, look at these rainfall totals, the amount of rain falling across England, Wales, Ireland and Northern Ireland as well getting in on the action. But then north of the Central Belt, hardly any rain to speak about. Then in the last 72 hours, this is the rainfall totals here. So a very wet picture, really, from about south of Scotland, the majority of England, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland seeing anywhere from 25 to as much as nearly 100 inches or millimeters of rain. I'm bouncing between American and British inches versus millimeters, feet versus whatever. You get my drift anyway. But looks as if we're going to see a cold night coming up. Clear skies, light winds, widespread temperatures down into mid to low single figures. These are the current temperatures, and it was a cold day across the board, even down across the south. 13, 14 degrees Celsius was achieved in the south, and we've got the low single figures now starting to appear in parts of mid single figures anyway, starting to appear across northern areas of the UK. Looking at how we go forward from here, let's look at how much rain may fall, first of all, across the UK as we go through. Let's look at the ECMWF because there's better resolution actually in this model. You can see here the rain moving out of the way. Then we're left with the lighter winds, northerly flow initially, then the winds lighten up. Then we've got higher pressure building in. Looks as if we're going to see a recovery in temperature across the northern UK as we go through the overnight period. Frontal system bringing some rain in across the northern half of that high. Clear skies, lighter winds, and a fairly cold night across the bulk of England, Wales, and the majority of the UK really as a whole. Let's not forget our friends in Ireland as well. And we've also got the coldest 850 temperatures since last spring moving south with on the backside of that low also. But looking at total rainfall between now and through the course of early next week, fortunately we've got another 40, 50 millimetres of rainfall in parts of the south. Don't need to see any more rain across the south of the UK. Again, drier, especially across central areas of Scotland. Slightly wetter across the north due to that frontal system moving in from the north here. You can see here these 850 temperatures. Like I say, coldest since the spring. Actually -5 at the 850 moving into the northeast of Scotland, as you can see here. But upcoming weekend, we're going to look at the tropics. We do have quite an interesting tropics at the moment. We've got Hurricane Isaac over the central Atlantic. We've got Tropical Storm Joyce. We've got Helene now over the interior southeast of the United States as well. We're going to be watching the tropics, by the way, because that Isaac system may be trying to make a beeline for northwestern Europe at some point next week here. And the tropics becoming more involved could have influence on the pattern going forward as well. So stay tuned for that. So we'll look at that in a bit more detail in the Tropical Outlook tomorrow. And then on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. So not 4 p.m., 7:30 p.m. live stream. We're going to look at Helene in better detail. Wild extremes this September. More winter thoughts as well. And also there's an epic 45-minute video that I produced yesterday looking at the bigger picture and some detailed explanation about the polar vortex, North Atlantic Oscillation, Arctic Oscillation, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, how this pattern's evolving, and where we're going into the month of October. So do check that out. I will try and leave a link in the description below today's video for both the live stream coming up on Sunday, the video that I produced yesterday. There are so many things going on at the moment here, so keep it right here in the channel. Like and subscribe. See you tomorrow with the Tropical Outlook. Bye for now.